Welcome to episode 129 of the Scarlet Faithful podcast. I'm Aaron Breitman, coming to you Saturday night, August 5th, following the news that Austin Williams has, in fact, committed to Rutgers basketball. It was a long process from when he initially visited. Big reason was he was finishing summer classes at Florida International as a grad student. So now it's done, and he is joining the roster. And the roster, I can confirm, I expected Austin Williams to eventually be here. 2 weeks ago, I think it was. I did a podcast on how I thought they would fill the last three spots of the roster, and they have in fact done it that way. Jeremiah Williams committing last week, the transfer, likely a sit-out transfer this year. Now Austin Williams, grad transfer, could be and should be a big contributor this year. And then Oscar Palmquist, I can confirm, is back with the program. It was expected. I expected him to be once I reported he entered the transfer portal a couple of weeks ago. He'll be announced with the roster in the coming days before they go overseas to Senegal and Portugal. They leave on Tuesday, so should have an formal announcement soon. But wanted to talk about the additions of Austin Williams and Oscar Palmquist, both of which I think are very good, high-value additions, especially first week of August. Really amazing. But at first, I just want to say I think the coaching staff had an unprecedented offseason in terms of losing two key starters the way they did, losing Cam Spencer following the transfer portal deadline for undergrads. That was, kind of not a normal thing to happen before this offseason. And that was a huge loss. Of course, he ends up at UConn. And then Paul Mulcahy ultimately transferring following the NBA early withdrawal deadline, which was uncommon as well. So to suffer two starting guards, two huge players to your program so late in the game, to be able to even just fill out a roster, but fill it out with players that make sense, that fit your roster, that brings specific skill sets, specifically Austin Williams, who brings certain things that Rutgers did not have on the roster before he is now being added. They did a heck of a job. They were able to bring back Cliff. They were able to, Mawat Mag and Andre Hyatt are back. Gavin Griffiths, the highest rated recruit. Noah Fernandez, a great transfer addition. I'm excited about this team. So let's get into it. Let's first start with Austin Williams. He brings specific skill set this team does not have. He's a big guard, 6'4", biggest guard by far. He's a good rebounding guard. He had a really high assist rate at Harvard his 2 years ago, led them to an NCAA tournament, first team all-conference player, averaged 16 and 5, and I believe how many assists? Did he average 3.5 and a 1.3 steals? So he was nationally ranked in a lot of different analytical categories. He was 100. So what he does well, he's a good rebounding guard. He can create his own shot. He can get to the rim. He can finish at the rim, and he can draw contact, draw fouls, and get to the foul line at a really high rate. Those are all things that Rutgers has struggled with, creating their own shot, guards that can create their own shot, guards that can finish inside 2-point range, and guards that can get to the foul line. So 2 years ago at Harvard, he was 171st nationally in fouls drawn rate, 5.0.4 minutes, and had a free throw rate of 42.6, which was 195th nationally. So free throw rate is your efficiency in drawing fouls, in terms of getting free throws, getting to the line. So 42%, 6.6% is very high. He also was 216th nationally with a 23.7 assist rate. So he's unselfish. He's tall. He's got vision. He can get his teammates the ball. And he was 369th with a 53.7 effective field goal percentage. And he shot 56% from 2-point range. He is a big guard that can draw contact, that can finish at the rim through contact and get to the foul line. Not a great foul shooter, 61.4% that season. Not a great three-point shooter, 30.8% that season. But he brings a lot to the table. He's going to be able to defend multiple positions, I think, in terms of, I think he could play the three a little bit, depending. Whether he starts, whether he finishes the game, he's going to play big minutes for them. And again, he brings them an element that they didn't have before him in terms of a bigger guard who can get to the rim, finish at the rim, finish through contact, and get to the foul line. Huge addition. He's also a veteran. He's got a lot of experience. He's mature. He's going to bring leadership. This is a great add. Yes, he missed all last season with a knee injury. All signs are that he's recovered, and he's I don't know how much he's going to play in the overseas trip. just acclimating to the program, but just going overseas. Getting all 13 guys on that plane is a huge win in and of itself. So he's going to be ready to go for the start of the season and really excited about what he brings. And then Oscar Palmquist, I reported that he entered the transfer portal 2 weeks ago. The reality is with Cam and Paul coming back, I think they just told him, listen, who wasn't going to get a lot of playing time. And he went to Elon. And I think when Paul and Cam left, even though they're both guards, I mean, I think there was some discussion of Paul, he's kind of a point forward too. He could have played a little bit of the wing at that 3 role. I think that opened up opportunity. And why not bring back a guy who is a program guy, a culture guy, he's a great teammate? The younger players look up to him due to his work ethic. He was a guy that proved last season that he could stay ready, that he could play in limited action, and he could deliver. And yes, he's not the perfect player. He's not a great defender. He's not a great rebounder. He can't create off the dribble, but he's a spot-up three-point shooter. He was 12 of 27. He hit 3 huge threes in Indiana. He hit 2 monster threes against Penn State on the road. That was a catalyst in coming back in that second half. He obviously, that Minnesota game, he had a month off, hadn't played, and then delivered that type of game. But I think that, you look at the Indiana game on the road, the Penn State game on the road, Oscar hit some big shots. He played decent. I thought in the Big Ten tournament, he started to know his role. He didn't try to do too much. He plays within the system. He plays within himself. He's not trying to be a hero. And I think he's a really good teammate. And I think, ultimately, if he's like the 10th guy in the rotation, I think it's a real good value add. And it's going to be seamless. He's going to come back in. They know what to expect of him. He knows what to expect of them. He's going to be happy to be back. His teammates are going to be happy to have him. At this 11th hour in August, to fill out the roster with a guy that is a known entity and brings you a specific skill set, a spot-up 3-point shooter, it's a win. It's a win. And I know people are like, oh, it's a step back. Some people have said, needing to take Oscar. That just shows that they weren't effective in the portal. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't know what people expected to get out of the portal. You're not going to get top 50 guys left and right. Noah Fernandes is a monster ad. The dynamic that he's going to bring as a ball handler, as the primary lead guard, his intuitiveness, his creativity, his ability to create for his teammates. He by the way, he's a good 3-point shooter, high 30s for his career, was shooting over 40% last year before he got hurt. He's a dynamic guard. Yes, he's 5'11". People are worried about his size. There are good small guards in the Big Ten. Sam Sessions was a good guard. Tyson Walker at Michigan State's a good guard. Michael Smith from Columbia, that was at Michigan, was a good guard. He is going to add an element to the offense that they haven't had. He's a different kind of creator. He's not a Corey Sanders type. He is just different. He can make something out of nothing. He is so quick, but he's never also played with the weapons he's going to have at Rutgers. He hasn't played with a freak athlete, 6'11", down low, who can take the lobs like Cliff. He hasn't played with a dynamic shooter, spot-up shooter like Gavin Griffiths. He hasn't played with, other guards that can create like Derek Simpson and Austin Williams, giving Rutgers 3 guards that can create off the dribble and create offense for others. Rutgers has not had that in a long time. And that's not even counting Andre Hyatt and Moat Mag. If they can develop Antoine Woolfolk, second year, you always, they always say freshman and sophomore year. So for Simpson and Woolfolk, but remember, Woolfolk was a football player. So he's now full-time basketball. I think this roster, listen, they're not going to compete for a Big Ten title, but this is going to be a good team. This is going to be a fun team, I think. They're going to play more up-tempo. They're going to be better offensively. They have a chance with Griffiths, with Fernandes, 2, I think, going to be really good 3-point shooters. We'll see how much Oscar plays, but he has an opportunity, I think, to be a better 3-point shooter this season. And then it comes down to, has Simpson developed? Can Hyatt get a little bit better from 3? But they're going to have more options. They're going to have more shooters, and they're also going to have more guys who can create off the bounce. I think it's going to help Cliff down low. Mag, obviously, the timetable. So there's been, there's a tweet out there. There's some reports. I know John Rothstein said that Steve Pikiell said, Mag should be ready for the opener. If you read his article, what the actual quote was, that he hopes Mag is ready for the opener. I don't think that should be the expectation. I think that would be, best case scenario, but I don't think it's the most likely scenario. Again, we're 3+ months away. It's really hard to know for sure. But I think that it doesn't matter if he's ready for the season opener or not. What matters is that on December 1st, is he ready to go? In late November, is he playing at all? Is he going to have time to work his way back where he can be a full-time contributor during Big Ten play? I think that's what matters. And if he can be, and he can get close to the level he was playing at before the injury, huge win, huge win. Emmanuel Agbole, Pikiell said in his podcast recently that both Mag and Agbole were in rehab. Agbole had an injury at the end of his season in JUCO play. I don't think he's going to be close to ready for the season opener. That definitely isn't true. But what he is able to give them this year, we'll wait and see. But I love his long-term potential. He's got 3 years left. He's a freak athlete too. I think he's going to be really good in the long term for Rutgers. So overall, let's look at the depth of the team. I think you're looking at a really solid 8-man rotation. Obviously, you have Cliff at the center. He's going to play 30, 32, maybe 34 minutes. He's got to stay out of foul trouble. Did a really good job of that last year. I think offensively, he's going to be a little more dynamic, but I think that they need to get him more in space. I think there's going to be a team that can run more in transition. That's going to help Cliff, but you're also going to have, when you have a guard like Noah Fernandes that can make something out of nothing and knife through the defense, that's going to help Cliff. Then you have Antoine Woolfolk, who can double as the backup 5, maybe play a little bit of 4. We'll count Mag in that rotation whenever he does return. And then you have Andre Hyatt. Andre Hyatt can play the 3 or the 4. So he's got real versatility, in terms of what he can bring this team. Then you have Gavin Griffiths, who I think has a chance to start right away and is going to be a huge impact player for this team. All accounts in practice is that he's shooting really well. He's got it. He's got to get physically stronger, but he's going to be a really big contributor from day one. And then you have the 3-headed, attack in the guards with all different, by the way. Noah Fernandes, 5'11", Derek Simpson, 6'2", Austin Williams, 6'4". And then I think you have JaMychal Davis and the guard out of Georgia, Ace Bailey's a good friend, super fast, great athlete. Him and Oscar, I think they're probably going to be the 9th and 10th guys in the rotation. And then I think you have Agbole and then Antonio Chol. It's kind of a wild card. Maybe he could, end up being a contributor. But I think adding Oscar takes some pressure off Chol having to be a definite contributor and makes this team deeper. I think the depth is better. I think the talent level is better. I think the versatility on offense is better. I think their skill set on offense is better. They probably won't be as good defensively, but they're going to be fun. They're going to be fun. And again, going back to the coaching staff, I think they did a tremendous job filling out the roster the way they did in the time frame that they had to do it. And I think that I've said this before, but Steve Pikiell's not going to have constraints anymore. That core group is gone now. And I think that the way Paul Mulcahy, the way he was injured last year, the way he struggled down the stretch, I think it was probably a weight for everybody in terms of how to handle it. And I think you don't have that weight anymore. And I don't even mean Mulcahy specifically, and I don't mean that disrespectfully in any way. And I know there was, rumors or speculation out there. He wasn't on the Washington roster. He was officially announced on Friday. Was he trying to come back? I think this is the way you have to look at it. He made his choice. When he left the program, Steve Pikiell had only one obligation, and that was to the players on his roster. And, I've already heard grumblings about Oscar coming back and Paul not coming back, completely different situations. And first of all, Paul was always committed to Washington, right? So he was committed to Washington, but Steve Pikiell's commitment is and his responsibility was the guys on this roster. And it's a different team. It's a different dynamic. It's a different dynamic in the locker room. You have 2 older guys now that are new to the program in Noah Fernandes and Austin Williams. They're going to be leaders. Noah Fernandes is a father. Those fathers that are listening and watching, how that changes you and your priorities and just your outlook and your motivations. So I just think, I can't say enough about his potential. Austin Williams, this is his last shot. He does need a waiver. But he was fully injured last year. He clearly has 1 year of eligibility left. He's going to be a 7th-year guy, so he's got to get a waiver, but it should be straightforward. And they're obviously expecting him to be a big contributor. So no real concern there, other than the NCAA being the NCAA. But he brings another layer of maturity and leadership to this team. You have Cliff back, who's back for one more run. He wants to win. Andre Hyatt, it's his last go. He wants to win. You have a young buck like Gavin Griffiths who's going to be hungry. I think the competition internally is going to be better because I think it's a deeper team, a more talented team, and it's more wide open in terms of minutes. It's definitely more wide open than it's been in the past. And I think that's going to be a healthy thing for Steve Pikiell, too. I think he's going to have less weight in terms of, how to dictate the rotation, feeling maybe, and I'm not saying he felt this way, but just in terms of, even before that, I mean, with Ron, Gio, Kale, I mean, there was minutes that were not available. There just weren't minutes available. And now he's got minutes to sell. He's got minutes players to compete for. And that's a good thing. And I think this team is going to be hungry. I think this team is going to play looser. They're going to play more up tempo. Again, defensively, I think they're not going to be at the level we're used to, at least initially. I think they can be good. I think some of the guys on this team are better defenders than maybe they've gotten credit for. But it's going to take time to develop defensively. But I think that this team is going to be able to score in different ways than they have in the past. And not for nothing, but John Rothstein had this team number 7 in the Big Ten power rankings 2 weeks ago, before Austin Williams and Oscar Palmquist came back. So this is a middle of the pack Big Ten team. They have a chance to be a top half of the Big Ten team. They have a chance to make the NCAA tournament. They're going to compete for an NCAA tournament. They have a good schedule. There's opportunities there. We talked about the Princeton and the Mississippi State game earlier this week. Excuse me. You have Georgetown. You have Wake Forest. You also have Georgetown, Wake Forest, and then Seton Hall, of course, and Mississippi State. So 4 high majors, 4 road neutral games, 4 top 100 teams from last year. It's a good non-conference schedule. You got to win the games you got to win, and then you got to do your damage in Big Ten play. But I think that this team is going to bring a different mindset. And after last year, after things got so heavy, and next year with the expectations likely to be immense, with potentially, and I know all these future casts came in. I mean, I've been saying for months that I thought Dylan Harper was going to Rutgers. I don't get mentioned with recruiting analysts, and I'm not a recruiting analyst. I'm a fan. But I've said for months that I thought Dylan Harper was coming to Rutgers. It's looking very good that way. We'll see when he does announce. Obviously, nothing's set in stone. Duke and Indiana are there, but all signs point to Dylan Harper at Rutgers. So congratulations, the analysts that just realized this week that, Dylan Harper probably is going to Rutgers. Well done. My point being that all the pressure that's going to come next year, if they do land the number 1 class or they land the top 2 recruits in Dylan and Ace, this year is it's going to be a fun year. It's going to be a fun roster. This is going to be a little bit of an underdog roster, but I think a team that has enough to make some noise. I really do. I like the balance on this team. I like the versatility. I like the skill sets. Austin Williams, tremendous add this late in the cycle. Obviously, you got guys that are coming off of injuries. Rich Campbell, the trainer, and David Van Dyke, the strength and conditioning coach. They're going to be busy, especially Rich Campbell. But I think Rutgers is a great staff. They have stability in that part of their staff. They've been with Steve Pikiell since Stony Brook. So there's cohesiveness there. And I think that nothing's guaranteed, of course, but you have real talent. I think this roster is, I like the way it's constructed. And the fact that they constructed it in the manner that they did, in the circumstances that they had to construct it, tremendous job. So Oscar Palmquist back, Austin Williams on the team, Jeremiah Williams. Again, he adds a ton of value for the future, even if he doesn't play this year, which is not expected to play. His ability to defend, his unselfishness, and his leadership for the 24-25 team, tremendous add this late in the cycle. So I think to round up the last month, to get the 3 ads they got from the transfer portal, I know, people wanted big names or, rankings or whatever. They're all fits. They all make sense. They all fit the program. They all fit the culture. Steve Pikiell knows what he's doing. I'm super optimistic. I hope you are too. And thank you for listening once again here at The Scarlet Faith.